Alex, how you going?
Hey, good. How are you?
Good, man. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for doing this. I really appreciate you
Yeah,
making
of
the time, man.
course. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no, not at all. First, I just want to say what a massive fan I am of the Black Angels. Just one of my
Thank you.
all-time favorite bands. Yeah, I've been listening to you guys since your first album, and it's just you guys are awesome.
Dude, thank you so much. Wow, that's awesome.
Ah,
I'm glad
not
you're
at
still
all.
with us.
Of
I'm glad
course,
you're still
man.
with us. Yeah, that's
um,
awesome.
how's Austin, dude?
It's good. It's hot. I don't know where are you calling from?
I'm from Melbourne, Australia.
Melbourne. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's, it's starting to cool down, it's starting to become fall now, but it was just summers are just brutal here, and I know that
Mm.
like it gets hot in Australia. I know that you guys deal with it too. We're not the only people that deal with the heat. But yeah, it's good. Yeah, my parents are in town, and we just had dinner, and yeah, my sister lives just down the street from me, so it's pretty nice that we get to go and play with cousins and stuff like that. So
Yeah, nice one. I went
yeah,
to
yeah.
Austin about 4 years ago or something, and it's yeah, great city. It's got a real it's really a music hub, isn't it?
But yeah, it really puts itself out there as being like the live. I mean, we call ourselves live music capital of the world, but I
Mm,
mean, whether that's true or not, I don't really know. But yeah, we got a good music scene for sure, and a good vibe, and a really supportive music scene. And I mean, what more do you ask for if you're a musician?
yeah, I feel like
Yeah,
you guys are really kind of at the forefront of that a lot. Like creating Austin Psych Fest, which is now Levitation,
yeah,
and yeah, I mean, just absolutely a big part of creating that music hub.
yeah. I think that in being a musician, you really, yeah, you have, if you're doing this full time, you have to know all the different and be a part of every facet of the music business. And from the, we're just lucky that we kind of got into this festival thing, um, which is really just a selfish way of us to invite our favorite bands to play for us. We said that for years. It's like that's how this festival started, and then that's why it kind of continued to grow, and now it's really more of a festival for the people. And that I'm not just saying that, like, we ask the fans, like, what bands do you want to hear, or and if we've got a bunch of Australian bands this year playing, and it's really cool. I mean, you guys got some great stuff coming out of Australia, though. I mean, come on, like, it's I think that's just kind of, it's something about the climate, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Man, the way you described putting on the festival is pretty much exactly the same as me starting this podcast. Just excuse
Yeah,
to meet
no,
all
I
the
mean,
people that inspire me, right?
yeah, no, it really, it is, that's kind of how we started the festival, and we're lucky that it's still going. And we couldn't be doing this if we didn't, if the fans, first and foremost, didn't really support this festival. It would have died a long time ago.
Mm,
But we're still at it, and
yeah,
yeah,
man,
here
how
we
big
are.
is it? I would absolutely love to go one day. It just seems like
Yeah, well, yeah.
the mecca of psych rock, right?
Oh, I mean, that's crazy to even say that, or to hear that come from like somebody else's mouth, because it's just like, for us, um, it's taken on more of like a South by Southwest approach, not with
Right.
like the seminars and the all the talks and everything, but with, we're in little venues all over Austin. It's not like how it used to be, where it used to be like in this big festival field. That's what it used to be, and that was really difficult. It was really expensive, and so like
Right.
whenever you, these are we had one year where we had this crazy rainstorm, and basically we had to cancel the festival, and the festival kind of just inevitably moved, because we had all these people in town. The festival inevitably moved to inside of city limits, and all the venues like picked up the slack, where we're like, we can't do this anymore. The venue's like, hey, well, we still have a venue. And
Yeah.
so that's really great that we just like happened upon this terrible accident, because it pushed everything back into the city and back into to the clubs and the music venues that brought this whole thing together anyway. So like it really, at the end of the day, it showed how strong live music venues are. Whenever this little festival that could or couldn't, whatever, couldn't make it through this terrible storm. And there's like a children's story there or something. And like
Totally.
the live music venues like just held it up and like, nope, you're not going to fail, you know, like here we go.
Far out. So that's what it is now. Like
that's what it is. So we just leaned into that. We're like, wait, we don't have to pay for production, you know, all like bringing fences in and like all this like crazy production. If you think of these like massive festivals that happen, they spend, you know, millions and millions of dollars. This festival is, you know, really put on by the city and put on by the live music venues. And so that's in a way, it's really cool how that showed itself.
Yeah, man, I couldn't even imagine like putting on a massive festival like that. And, you know, you've already got the band and it seems like you're involved in so many things. Actually taking on like a huge undertaking like that, like how hands-on and involved were you at the beginning?
Yeah, you know, in the beginning it was really hands-on. You know, it was everything from like cleaning porta potties, which are like these, you know what those are, to handing tickets off and, you know, getting volunteers to, you know, to scrap up your friends to help, you know, like there were those early days where, you know, you just really had to get your hands dirty. You had to be on the ground and be there and just do everything, you know, wear several hats or whatever. So now the festival, you know, is run by a longtime friend of mine. His name's Rob Fitzpatrick. I went to high school with, and he kind of took it upon himself to really just be the day-to-day manager of Levitation, and has just got a brilliant mind and really whipped the festival into shape, where we were just kind of like, you know, we're touring and, you know, we have a couple bands that want to play, but, you know, who's going to run this when we're not like in town? So and again, inevitably, you know, the city, our friends were picking up the slack, and, you know, we've had such good fortune with people being like helping us get through these crazy times, through like COVID and these like crazy rainstorms and all this other shit. So it's interesting to see that it's not really even our festival anymore. That's what I feel like. It's just kind of like, you know, how internet, now it's like nobody's internet, it's everybody's internet. That's what it feels like. This is like everybody's, you know. In reality though, Rob Fitzpatrick really took it upon himself to be the day-to-day manager, and has done a great job. But at the end of the day, you know, we still like to see this festival grow and be successful, and but not get out of hand and not get out of like you know, out of our taste. You know, I think it would be nice to keep I don't know how you do that, grow a festival, but then keep it like fresh and then keep it like growing. I don't really know how to do that. So that's something that we'll figure out what happens in the future next. You know, we'll see what happens.
That must be such an amazing feeling though, being able to just facilitate all and just platform all the amazing, incredible musicians that you're a huge part of, and create a community, right?
No, it's a beautiful thing. It's absolutely beautiful. It's interesting. We looked at this festival as like raising a child, really, you know.
Right.
And eventually the child wants to be in this field and run around this big festival, you know, and then it kind of like gets tamed by Mother Nature, and it's like kind of comes back. I mean, it's really interesting how now it's just like this living and breathing organism that's just there.
That's awesome, man. Well, like, well done. That's so great. So you guys, the Black Angels, have got an album coming out in, I think, 2 days from now, right? Like it'll be out by the time this is out. But
it is 2
Wilderness
days.
of Mirrors. Yeah,
2 days.
Fantastic. I can't wait.
Thank you.
Tell us about the album.
Yeah, so we decided to go back to so we've been working with producers on the last couple of records, you know, like most bands do. They go through and they work with these people who kind of take them to songwriting school or something, and that was really great for us to work with these producers like Dave Sardi and Phil Eck, John Congleton, and you know, we had realized that, well, maybe it's time that, well, we didn't realize, we're just like, hey, maybe it's time we just go back to the basics, like, and you know, maybe we don't need to go use a producer. Let's just make a record at home with you know, our buddies, and that's basically what we did. So we went back to Passover and Directions to See a Ghost days, where
Fantastic.
we just went in there for a fucking year, really, and or more, because of COVID, and we were able to just like make the record that we wanted to make. Not that the records that we made weren't the records that we wanted to make, but you know, we didn't have, you know, an outside hand kind of help, you know, helping craft. And I don't know how that's going to turn out. I have no idea. Like, it could be a total disaster for all I know. I mean, but like, you know, this is what, you know, what our bodies were telling us to do. So in our minds, so we went and did it, made this record in Austin, and we like it. You know, I go through this thing where, you know, anything that I create or I'm involved in, I like it, and then I don't, and then I'm just like, I don't want to hear it, and then I have to relearn it. You know, you have to learn these songs again and play them, and sometimes it gets a little like daunting. And then you have your other back song, you know, back catalog or whatever that you're trying to remember how to play.
Right. Yeah.
It sounds like I've got this really hard job. It's not. I'm making it like worse than it actually sounds, right? I mean, playing music is a great thing. It's beautiful. But I'm just now at the point right now where I'm just like, oh, okay, I remember these decisions and these moves we made in the studio, and I'm like reliving them and having to relearn the record. So yeah, we've got an album release party on Friday.
Nice.
At this place called 13th Floor.
Great name.
Yeah. It's this place is co-owned by one of the band members, Jake Garcia, and so we were like, hey, let's just do this cool little like small show in Austin again for our buddies, and just kind of bring it back into the city, you know, and do something small and, you know, tangible. So we're doing like a stripped down set. With the Black Angels, that just means it's not like super like loud and super fuzzy. It's going to be more like organic and like harmonium and, you know, stuff like that, acoustic guitars, whatever. We, you know, not, you know, full on fuzzathon. It's not going to be like that. But so yeah, in that it's been really cool, because it's like we've been relearning the songs and really grinding away at them. It is, and we're kind of learning how to play them in this different way. Like, it's like stripping it down to its like bare bones, you know. And I really like, I like doing that. It's just kind of difficult sometimes. Be like, wait, why do we write this song that's like drifting off in this one way?
Right.
Why do we make a song that's so difficult to recreate? But like, that's just like, so that's where we're at now. So that brings us like 2 days from now, the album comes out, and we're about to do this like tour. And so that's what you're looking at. And it's like tired, you know, dad who's like in a band. It's like 9 o'clock. It's past my bedtime.
Yeah. Thanks again for making
I'm totally.
It's interesting to hear you. Yeah. I mean, from someone who's outside of the music world, but I'm speaking about kind of, the dynamic with producers and things. First of all, your first 2 albums are just such a massive fan of those. I've thrashed them for years, and it's awesome to I mean, I love all your stuff, but awesome to hear that that's kind of the direct, you know, what you're doing. But yeah, what is the kind of band's approach to making a new album? And you know, do you kind of come in with a bit of a unified idea of a body of work, or a different kind of a sound or a message, and what role do those producers kind of dictate as well?
No, I think that the producers are trying to get you down to your like, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to say? What is your message? Like, all the things you just asked me, that's what a producer tries to do. They're like, okay, well, and how can everybody understand what you're trying to say, and not just you? Like, of course, like the artist can understand their art, but that doesn't mean anybody else can. And so that's one of the roles of a producer, is making sure that this is something that everybody can understand. And like I said, it's like kind of like getting down to the brass tacks of what the song is. So yeah, there's, you know, is there a similar like sound? Not really. Message, yes, that comes through like later when we're like, okay, should we say this way, or this that, you know. All those decisions are made in the studio. A lot of them are with our band. I mean, that's just our band. But a lot of times, like I've had this conversation before, but a lot of times the music comes first, and it sets the narrative for the vocal, for the lyrics. It's like, okay, here's some like deadly riff, like what is this? And so the lyrics are just kind of like explaining like what the sound is in the room. So that's kind of how that's typically how we write our songs. The music comes first, and it has a certain color, and we're just, you know, describing what we hear and what we see in the room, and that's kind of the art behind what we're doing or whatever. And it's kind of rare that we're like, okay, we're gonna write a song about money, you know, like it's rare that we do that. You know, it's usually, it's like, you know, we're mirrors of like what's happening in the world at the time. And, you know, I think most art is that, right? It's like just a reflection of what's happening around you. So that kind of, again, brings us to 2 days from now, and we have this album called Wilderness of Mirrors, where everything's kind of fuzzy, like, and blurry and skewed and manipulated, and you don't know who to trust and who's like telling you the truth and who do you believe. Like, that's where we are with this record.
Fantastic. Well, what is so when you're working in a group dynamic, like you guys have always been four, you've just had a new member come in the last couple of years, right?
We've always been five. We've always thought that five was a magic number, just because of the thick, like, you know, the sound that we're going for is always like, it needs like 2 guitars and a bass guitar, and then some thick droney kind of thing, and a drum, right? So that's like the 5 things, and it seems like just like we can't get it done with any less. It's just, it needs that beef.
Yeah.
Needs that good old Texas beef.
Totally. Is there a driving force that kind of you know,
fear? Yeah,
fear.
fear is a driving force of everything that we do. I think fear of failure, so you get in there and make sure that you know what you're doing. You know, fear of where like the world is heading, like where, you know, I think that everything kind of points back to that. Like when you put it in front of me, I think that's kind of an obvious thing for me.
Wow.
And there's just so much to talk about in fear and the unknown, you know, with the unknown, like what's beyond today. That is a big force of where our creative message comes from. And how do you interpret that, and how do you deal with that, and as a person, right? Like, so, because we're people first, you know, we're just normal people who are looking at this world and we're like, oh man, this is fucked up. Right? And then we like write about it, and that's kind of what we're, you know, what we're doing. So, you know, when you break it down to its minimal thing, we're just people looking at this world, being like, what's happening, and then we write a song about it, you know. That's like the job description. And like sometimes it's like scary going into that, like, and, you know, finding out, you know, like keeping your eyes open or not, you know. Sometimes we just like, it's so easy to turn your head and not look at the problem, whatever that is. And I think this is our way of trying to understand the world in some way, right? I mean, that's kind of like what's happening, I think.
Yeah. Wow. Has that always kind of been a pretty consistent theme or mind frame?
I feel, I mean, if you go back to like Passover and, you know, songs like Young Men Dead, it's just like,
great,
you know,
song.
I think of this, like this leader, like leading these people into like this fucking like slaughter battle. Like, that's just like what's happening, like on the daily, like what's always happening. And so it's kind of like, you know, trying to avoid destruction and trying to figure out who's like, you know, telling the truth. Like, that's kind of, and I don't know, you know, we could do this all day and go, you know, make 1,000 records, and we might not ever get to the bottom line of that, you know, and that's okay. That's fine. This is just like our therapy and how we're dealing with like, and it's, you know, I'm making it sound like you know, our music's got this big doom and gloom behind it. Like a lot of times you can write a song that has all this fear, and then you tangle it up into like, and then you twist it a little bit, and it's all of a sudden becomes a love song, and then you twist it again and it becomes something else. And so when we realize that, you know, all of our songs can't be super dark, and so we just kind of keep turning the dial until it's like you have like all these things pointing at these different directions. And then the idea is that some people are going to think this is a love song, and people are thinking, you know, this is a song about, you know, money or the end of the world or whatever. And so that's like the goal is to kind of just hide everything, like hide our fear of things with just changing a word or two here or there. I think very honestly, that's kind of like what we do.
Yeah. I heard you once describe your music as like a soundtrack to rob a bank too, and but I've often thought it's kind of like some of like your more heavy, darker tracks. It's like the soundtrack to the apocalypse. I've often thought it's like,
I mean,
the world's
like
crumbling around us, and some of us are fun. Some of them are fun. It's like, you know, you could wither up into a fetal position, or some people just Mad Max it and just like,
dude, that's like, that's life, right? I mean, isn't that
right?
That's totally like life. I mean, that's just, I mean, I feel like that's how everybody deals with life too. You curl up in a ball, or you just like, you know, rally through it, and you're just like, here we go, you know. And that's like, so I love hearing that you hear that. And yeah, we've often said that, yeah, music to rob a bank too. And whether that's like, you know, metaphorically robbing a bank, or literally, you know, we don't encourage that at all, obviously, but you know, that's still that kind of fear-based kind of like, you know, that just comes from probably watching so many silly movies, you know, something like that. But yeah, like if you can rob a bank to it, it makes a good soundtrack.
Totally. Yeah, music for bandits. I love it.
Yeah, music for bandits. My son's gonna like that.
Yeah, totally. I love what you were just saying also about the kind of ambiguity in some of the messages, and just tweaking a few words here. Your new song El Jardín, am I saying that right?
El Jardín, yeah,
El
that's
Jardín.
right.
I've been really thrashing that since you guys released it.
Cool.
I mean, just a beautiful message about climate change and what we're doing to the planet, and also seems to be all kind of like ambiguous into a love song as well. I mean, at least that's my interpretation of it.
It's like this love affair with the earth, and what we're like, how we're pulling and pushing in it. And like everything can kind of come back to a relationship. If you think about like a song, it can always come back to that like dynamic between two individuals. And so this one is about, like this relationship between you and Mother Earth. And I never thought, honestly, that I'd be able to talk about songs like this. Like our songs were in the beginning, we're just kind of like, okay, well, you know, I think in doing interviews like this, you kind of start to be like, oh, well, this song can have a bigger message. And so I think that's kind of something that we've tried to focus on in our writing is try to do something with the power that we have and the platform that we have, you know, speak to a point that means something greater than us. And so I'm glad that you dig it, man. I'm glad that you dig this song.
Man,
and
love it. There's something great about that song, and it's, I mean, it kind of seems like quite an uplifting song, but also the more I've kind of listened to the words and things, like there's a kind of a sadness that comes through as well. And I really got that from the video clip. I've been loving the video clips too. Cool, that one and Empire's Falling is just great. But yeah, I encourage everyone to check out the video clip to El Jardín. It's just this, there's a real sadness to it, I thought.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, and there's a sadness to all, you know, every relationship, right? I mean, there's ups and downs, and at the end of it, you're just like crying, or like you're rallying through it, right? It's the same thing. It's like you've curled up in fetal position, and you're rallying through it. And I think that, as we're checking that like human diagnostic test on our songs, like, you know, if you can't, you know, I don't know, making songs and is, it's interesting because a lot of times you're like, okay, well, going back to what we were talking about earlier, is anybody going to understand what we're talking about here? And secondly, does it even matter? Like, does it even matter? Like, the answer is like yes and yes, and also no and no, because it doesn't matter. Like, you're going to interpret the song differently than the next person, and that's wonderful. And that's a great thing. And I love it when people are like, oh, this song means something, and to me, that I didn't think of, that happens. Yeah.
Empire's Falling also just a really great a great track, but also I think it's kind of been left open enough and not specific particularly to any one country or thing. Even in the video clip, there's like USA references with the Statue of Liberty, but also all the kind of the people in power are kind of depicted as like, demons or skulls, or it's just kind of got this ambiguous fuck you to the to the powers that are destroying us all, right?
Yeah, no, I think, and again, big high five to the team that made that video. We wanted to, in making a like this rotoscope video, like rotoscoping is when you go over like a current like film with, I think I'm gonna get probably sued for trying to like describe this, but you go over it with like pen, like, you draw over the film, and that creates like a cartoon kind of thing. So
like tracing.
Tracing. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
So that was the idea of this, the video, and that actually Ramiro, the new member of the band, he was kind of like, oh, it'd be cool to have this kind of concept, and but yeah, isn't like, hasn't every great empire like fallen? And that's kind of like the joke behind it, is like there's no, from like the Ming Dynasty to the Ottoman Empire to now, like who's next? Yeah.
I mean, it's a crazy time politically, right? I mean, it just seems like
bonkers. I mean, it's bizarre. It's like, just who do you even like trust? Who do you believe? Like, what's going on? Like, what the fuck is happening? And does it matter? At the end of the day, like, we're just making music and like just talking about it. Like, I don't know. It's fucking crazy. But it does matter.
Yeah. I mean, the kind of the end of the world theme is it's such a cool, interesting theme that I've also just been playing around with a bit in my art lately, and it's
cool.
It really is a source of huge inspiration, and I think particularly with your music and hearing those themes, it is a way of dealing with the uncertainty of this just crazy fucked up time, right? And it does give comfort, that knowing other people are we're all in it together.
Yeah, no, that's a very like that's a very great feeling. And like I feel like every time I have like a conversation or do an interview, it's like talking to a therapist. Like right. By the end of it, I'm like, man, I feel validated in my feelings. I feel like, somebody else understands me, like, something, and that sounds kind of, I'm not, I'm being for real. That's kind of like how I feel every time I leave like an interview. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is great that somebody else is rallying through this with us, or curled up in fetal position. So that, what are you? So you're making music, or you're making art? What are you doing?
I'm a painter, oil painter. So do a lot of them.
I want to see your stuff.
Yeah, that's one of them back there.
So, whoa, I was just admiring that. I had no choice. It's right there. I was like, man, is that like, is that Australia, or is that somewhere in Texas?
That's Australia. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. Is that like, were you sitting there and like painting that?
No,
or did you just come up with that shit?
No, that's a real place, but it's in the Grampians in which is a beautiful national park.
Gorgeous.
Thank you, really appreciate it.
That is awesome. I just wanted to like, that just being behind your head, I just want to be in that, wherever that is.
I tell you, the US, man, the US for nature is number one. Like we did a trip of about 30 days doing just national parks of the US, and I've never seen anything more beautiful in my life. Yeah.
Did you get to Utah?
Yeah, we did a bit of Utah.
That's like, there's some crazy shit in Utah. Like, I mean,
best
Yeah,
nature I've ever seen. Yeah.
yeah, like
Bryce
it's got
Canyon.
it all. It's got
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I asked my wife to marry me in Bryce Canyon. We were both just too
What? Oh
struck by
wow.
the by the beauty of it all. We're like, everything's right
Wow, let's
here.
just do it. Yeah, I love that, man. That
Totally.
is crazy.
Completely unplanned.
That's amazing. I love that.
But yeah, nature is key. Nature is key.
It is, man.
Um,
It really is. It kind of like makes everything worth it. Like when you get out there and you're like, really nothing else matters,
mm,
like Metallica said or whatever.
yeah,
Like, you get out there, it's
totally.
like, what is going, like nothing in the world matters. So if you're out in nature, you're just like, everything is okay. You see
Mm,
things dying and you just see that's just the natural cycle of things. There's nothing to be afraid of. And like,
to-
that's just like, Mother Nature will just like, crush you at any moment. Like,
totally.
and that's okay.
Yeah,
That's
it
like,
doesn't
that's
care
fine.
about you, right?
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't. And that's okay. And that's fine. That's good. You have no control over it.
Yeah, I really felt that when I was in Yosemite, and you get to El Capitan, the huge giant
Oh,
cliff
yeah.
face. It's just so overwhelmingly large. There's just this, yeah, you really do get that sense of humbling without sounding too much like
You're
a wanker.
tiny.
But it's, yeah,
No,
you're
no, no.
tiny.
You're
Like it's
tiny. You're tiny. Yeah.
the weight of
That's
that thing. You know, it's just,
Oh
yeah.
gosh. That's
Um,
great. It's amazing.
mm.
Yeah, that's great.
But so yeah, kind of in contrast to this, like end of the world themes and gnarly music that you guys make with Black Angels. I read that you've recently had a kid. You made a solo album called
Yeah.
Luca, which is the name of your kid. You and your band seem like you definitely grapple with the uncertainty of the future and the world that is about to,
Yeah.
I
It
mean,
just
what's to come. So
yeah, we made it a little bit more difficult just if it wasn't already difficult enough. We're like, okay, so let's have a child. And like, that's something that you may or may not do go through in your life. Or do you have
hmm,
kids or
I don't, but
yeah.
I'm at the age where it's getting more and more conversational,
Yeah, no, totally.
35. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like it's great. It's wonderful. It's so inspiring and it's beautiful. It's like, I would say that if you don't want to have kids, don't have kids. But like, if you do, then like, it's one of the most amazing things ever to,
Hmm,
and a parent of a parent will know that, but it's hard to tell anybody like who doesn't
yeah.
have kids. Not that you can't understand it, but it's just like, oh, one of those things right you go through it and you're like, holy fuck, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So we had Luca and then we had another baby 5 months ago. So
Oh,
that was
congratulations.
yeah. So we're just like, here we go, let's do things.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's gonna be kind of crazy going on tour right now. With a brand new baby. It's kind of like a not the best timing, really
Right.
to go on tour with a new record. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Mm. Did you have
Yeah.
much anxiety leading up to having kids, based on particularly like the subjects matter that you grapple with your music about the future?
Yeah, no, it sounds kind of like it sounds like when you put it that way, it makes it sound like this crazy decision, right? I mean,
Mm.
but like at the end of the day, it was kind of like that thing where you're out in nature and you're like, what, like we're gonna do this because we've done everything else,
Yeah.
and we need to survive. It's like the human existence needs to survive. I think that there's more good than there is evil, and I think that was kind of like one of the big swaying factors for me. So I didn't have a ton of I mean, I had some, but I tried to probably just block it out. Honestly, I
Yeah.
was probably just like horse blinders and just kind of focus on like what was in front of me. And I
Exactly.
think
One step in front of the other, right?
yeah, and that's like just good advice for anybody
Mm.
going through
Yeah.
anything.
Was this solo album that you released about, I think it's about a year ago or maybe a bit more now?
Yeah, it was
Was
actually in December of 2020.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, it was like in I think it was 2020. I don't even know what year
Yeah,
it
time
is.
doesn't make any sense anymore after the pandemic.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, so I was like, I knew it was like, it was your first year. I was like, oh, never not release it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna release it because I didn't want anybody else to, this silly thing. I didn't want anybody else to, release anything that felt like that, at the time. I just felt like if I wait, somebody's going to do something and it's going to sound like that, like what I just did. Like,
right.
I had this fear of that, which is like really silly. And I don't know if that's true or not. Whatever. That's why I was like, okay, well, we're just going to release it and worry about touring and everything else later.
Yeah, it's such a different vibe to the Black Angels. Oh man, that one track, what would I tell your mother, I think it's called. It's just
so talk beautiful. About like across like the bleed of the idea of like life and death hanging over, I go back and I listen to that record, and there's this artist Aldous Harding who's from Australia, and I feel great. Like I go back and I listen to that song in particular, and I'm like, oh man, that's such like whatever she was going through or whatever, like I just kind of just felt, like as a writer, as an artist, whatever, you can kind of sometimes put yourself into somebody else's shoes. I felt like in some weird way, like she's gonna hear this or not and be like, what is he talking about? But I was like, man, it's like somehow embodying her, like seeing through this like situation, or she was there or something. I don't know. He's probably gonna be like, what the fuck is he talking about?
Wait, are you saying the song was kind of an interpretation?
It was inspired by, no, it was kind of like, yeah, I think like in some ways I kind of stepped into her shoes and kind of like wrote a song from her perspective about this situation, just jumped out like, and it was really weird because that song like was one of the songs on the album that was totally freestyled. It was like I just walked into the studio, sat down and wrote the song, and there wasn't much overdubbing or editing or anything on the lyrics or anything. It was just kind of walk into the studio, hit record, and then take a chunk of that recording and just put it right on the record. And that's what that song is. Yeah, it was like sit down and freestyle.
And when you say her, are you talking about Aldous Harding? Oh wow! Yeah. Does she know?
I doubt it. I've never admitted that. So probably she would never know. I mean,
oh my god, that's incredible! I'm sure she would love to hear that. That's my favorite track on the album. It's
cool.
What an amazing thing to I hope she hears this.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's funny because I saw her at Levitation and I had never seen her before, and so she was playing at this place called Hotel Vegas, and I happened upon like just the show because it was on my list, and I was like happened upon it, and I walked in, I was just like, my mind was blown when I saw her performing. I was just like, dude, I've never really felt that way, like after leaving her show. I don't know what it was. It's like I just felt like I was in tears. I felt like she just like kind of like swooped into my like conscience and like just took over for a second, and I was just like really affected by that show. There was a couple artists like that, and Clinic is one of them, and she's one of them, and watching Simeon from the Silver Apples, there's like people that are just like affect you as a person like yourself. and yeah, I've never really admitted that or anything, but yeah,
that's so cool. I love that. Wow, talk about the butterfly effect, right?
Yeah,
she's just doing a gig.
Yeah, no, just doing a gig, just bending people's souls, and I'm just like, okay, take me.
Wow, I love that. Yeah. That's so great. Was putting together that album because it's named after your son. Was a lot of it is about I guess
I think
becoming a father and things.
Yeah, a good portion of it was what it's like to be a father, a parent, and like what this new perspective and this new look on like life, really. And some of the songs were around since way before Luca came around, so I can't say that all the songs on there but were strictly like directly influenced by him, or that moment in my life. But a lot of the moves on the record were like, it was like people were like, what's your solo album like, if you could describe it? And I'm like, it's kind of like dad folk. I don't know what else to call it. Like it's like I went into the record thinking it was going to be like Wu-Tang meets Leonard Cohen,
Right.
That was kind of like the idea of these like samples and like, you know, this like cool like thing happening. And like, I don't know what happened during the record or whatever, but I'd just like to make that record one day. Wu-Tang meets Leonard Cohen would be
Yeah.
really cool.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Did it feel different, I guess, expressing yourself in a slightly different way that you're more known for?
Yeah, it was great, man. It was really like just fresh and, you know, just I was able to just do whatever I wanted to do, and whether that was good or not, I have no idea. But like um, that, yeah, to just be like, just completely free with that space in that moment and just have a canvas to throw stuff on was just like an amazing, I would say, just for anybody who just had children or, you know, went through that thing. Like, you don't have to be a musician or anything or an artist, whatever. Like, just write down your feelings, put it on a canvas, and just see what happens. And that experiment was a really cool one for me. And
Mm.
it's cool that I have that record
Yeah.
to look back and be like, wow, that's what you're going through. That was you right there. Just like, you know, you do with all your art.
Right. Oh, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Is that something that you plan to kind of keep chipping away at and just keep a
Yeah,
whole new
man.
project, or was it then
I
and
think
there?
probably keep going with it because I mean
Mm.
I feel like there's such a good overflow of, you know. So yeah, like, to answer your question, it's hard to find the time for everything, and
Yeah,
I think
totally.
that you just end up making time for the things that you want to do, and like that's kind of what I think happens in life. And that's where like Darwin comes into play, and the things die that aren't strong enough in your life. And so I mean, not that the Black Angels like aren't like this thing, but like it's great to go to a different place and explore these different things and then come back to the Black Angels and just be like, oh, that was this other little moment over here, that's this other side of my musical taste or
Mm.
whatever. And you know, I definitely want to keep going with this solo stuff just because of the way it made me feel when I was writing the record. I felt like um I just felt special when I was writing it, and so I'll probably do that again to get that feeling.
Yeah. How was the reception of it? Like, was there a completely different type of people responding to your music, I suppose? Like,
Yeah, I think there was, and I think that deep down that I was probably wanting that, you know, also to really break away from like like the psych world and really
mm,
just kind of
mm,
be like, hey, like this is just like music or whatever, you know, like just come and listen. And so I think that, yeah, that was the point of the record, was to open people's minds to, and turn them on to my, you know, to this record, obviously sneak in and steal some fans from the Black Angels crowd and vice versa, or whatever, however you want to look at it. So I definitely want to do it again.
mm. Oh
It was,
yeah.
man, it's a really cool experience.
Man, I'll be looking forward to Wu-Tang meets Leonard Cohen for
Yeah,
sure.
man, I want to write that record. Yeah,
That sounds good.
yeah, man.
Were you always a very I suppose musical person growing up and at school and things? And were you always in bands before
No,
the
no,
Black
not really.
Angels?
I wasn't not in school. Like, I mean, I had this like like this I believed in myself enough to where I was like willing to like freestyle like over like, you know, Houston like rap. Like,
Oh
so
right.
that was like kind of gave me this like kind of like the confidence to like step into a space with other artists and be like, hey, I'm gonna close my eyes and just say whatever comes to my head. And like,
Mm.
if I didn't have those early experiences, like, you know, with my friends, just like being in the car, like, you know, like listening to music and just like freestyling back and forth and doing that, going through those motions, if I didn't have that experience early on, I probably wouldn't have this like, oh, I can do this, like,
Mm.
which is like, you know, kind of insane to look back at the times of your life where you think you're wasting your years and it's actually doing something later on. Like, it's
Yeah.
kind of like, oh, that's why that's why I was doing that at that moment. Like, that's what I mean. Or maybe I got lucky. I don't know, but like, I do feel like I wasn't always like super musical. Like, I always heard music and nature together, right? So we
Mm.
kept talking about nature earlier. always thought like nature and music were so synonymous that you couldn't separate them ever. And so whenever I would write music or lyrics to whatever kind of music it was, whether it was like hip hop or, you know, rock and roll or whatever, like I would try to get back to that moment where nature and music meet, and there's like this thing that's like unbreakable with them. And so like I think that's why I'm really attracted to beautiful artists like you know, Aldous Harding and Hope Sandoval, you know, that other side of music where it's just like this beautiful thing that's happening that feels really natural in the natural world. And yeah, so
Do you mean when you talk about nature and music being synonymous, do you kind of mean like, I mean, well, for instance, when I was driving around Utah and Arizona, the Black Angels were getting played a lot in those big, desolate desert
yeah,
scapes that were just, you know, just bare bones sticking out of the sand kind of stuff.
yeah, man,
Is
I
that
mean,
kind of what you mean? Like, do you
that's
feel?
exactly, you know,
Yeah.
absolutely. I would like to feel like I would like to feel some kind of harmonious like thing with nature. And when we're, yeah, absolutely. You know, like I think that music, just music for me and nature just goes so hand in hand. It's just hard
Mm.
to, for me to even describe it. But like you saying that you're driving around listening to the Black Angels going through the desert, that's like perfect. You know, like it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
the small subject going through the it's like, I don't know, like I'm it's really flattering to hear that, like
Mm.
you know, that someone's getting it or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I haven't really heard it being put like that. I've heard people, you know, describe sounds and colors, relationships to sound and
mm,
color, but yeah, I guess haven't really, apart from the example I just gave, thought about
yeah,
music,
man.
musical genres or styles in terms of nature. What is your favorite kind of landscape that you like
Yeah,
love being in?
gosh, I would be afraid to even say, like
Mm.
I'm afraid that like I'd be struck down tomorrow if I said like my favorite. I, you know, I like jungle a lot.
Jungle,
I
yeah.
like, you know, I like really like the lushness of jungle, and
Mm.
I like the aridness of the desert, and how bleak and stark it is. I think it's just as beautiful. Like you know, some of these places on Earth are just like from a different planet. It looks like you're on like Mars or so. So I don't know.
Totally.
I can't answer that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna. But yeah, I like it all, man. But I absolutely just want to go back to the confusing thing with the nature of the music. I just was always in awe of it, and always heard sounds in the natural world and nature that were just like so beautiful that it was just obvious that like I was going to gravitate towards music at some point.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
it was just it was like it was just like inevitable. Like there was no, it was going to happen no matter what. Like that's kind of how I feel. But not, and I don't even know if I believe in all that, like destiny or whatever. But like,
Mm.
but it makes a lot of sense when you look back at your life. You're like, okay, that makes sense. Like you were, you know, you have this like connection to nature and music, and you like making you like making music, and you have this confidence that you think that you can do it, and then you put all that together, and all of a sudden you're like in a psychedelic rock and roll band or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Were there many musical incarnations before the Black Angels? Like, did you experiment with multiple genres, or were you like pretty psych rock from the get go?
No, I mean, I think it was more about like the openness and the willingness to like put yourself out there again, you know,
Mm.
just really being like, okay, I can do this, and not being afraid to be judged or, you know, fear of what people were going to think. So like you know, I would fuck around with any kind of you know, music that
Mm.
was like that sounded like attractive to me. Like I never, you know, as an artist, you never want to be boxed into any category.
Yep.
um you know, but it just so happens that, you know, the Black Angels are X, Y, and Z, and that's how you talk about it, and you know, that's how you refer to it. And but I, you know, I love all music, man. I love like country music. I love old country music. I love electronic music. I love folk music, and I love it all. So you know, yeah, I was always like messing around with different kinds of styles and sounds, and you know, when Christian and I, you know, first started getting together a long time ago, we came together on a few things. Like the Beatles were one of the best bands in the world. The Velvet Underground flipped the Beatles on their head in terms of like taking something that was like poppy and fun and like and just making it dark and sexualized and really fucked up, you know. And so where that met and then where the 13th floor elevators came into that, like you had this weird thing again happening where you're just like, it was a really strong foundation for us where we're just like, dude, this is like a really cool time to be discovering music, turning each other on to different stuff, but really having that foundation of like those three bands. And I'd throw like Suicide and Silver Apples in there too, where it's just kind of like, what is, you know, what's more psychedelic than all that? So
Yeah.
Yeah, having that foundation and really like, and that foundation just kind of stayed with us, you know, like nothing's really changed. Like we still think all those same things are true. Like, and yeah, it's great to make music, but it's even better to make music with your best friends. That's the
Totally.
best fucking feeling. That's cool.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So was that the conception of the band? I guess you and Christian were buddies, and then it kind of
Yeah, man. Like, so check it out. So Christian and I went to Christian's dad was a pastor,
Oh
a
wow.
preacher. Yeah. So I was going to, you know, I was like, and like this is back in like high school. So like, you know, people, you know, were just doing whatever. So I was like going to his dad's church, and that's where I met Christian. And we went on a couple mission trips. One was to Mexico, one was to Jamaica. And on those mission trips, Christian and I would not really do much of the religious side of things, but we'd more so like be writing songs together, like while we were painting houses and doing this missionary work or whatever. So we realized early on in our lives that we had this like musical connection at 13, 14 years old, you know, really young. Like that was like, so whenever he came back to Austin to do whatever he was doing, he called me. He's like, hey, what are you up to? I was like, I'm playing music. He's like, dude, I'm playing music too. So we got together and we wrote like 9 songs. And we were, you know, that's kind of like how the band started. And something happened. I think somebody broke into my house and stole that like hard drive. I'd like to find out what was on that. Like after all these years, what happened? What was on that initial recording of all that from all those years ago? That would be cool to find that. I don't know how well somebody stole it and probably did something else with it, but
I want to know what Christian's pastor father thinks of the Black Angels.
Oh my God. Woof. Woof. Oh God. Yeah, I don't know, man. Awesome. Hopefully that is awesome. Hopefully he's like happy for him that he's found something that like has made him happy, you know?
Yeah, totally.
That's hopefully the end of that.
Yeah, for sure. You guys really seem, you know, there's a lot of references to other musicians in the past, like 13th Floor Elevators. Is it Jason Garcia, the other band member? Jacob Garcia has a band called 13th Floor. And I think you're like the Black Angels logo, and there's a lot of different references, but it does, particularly with like what was Austin Psych Fest and now Levitation, it seems like you guys really are like carrying the torch from the kind of psychedelic 60s, particularly.
I don't know. I mean, we definitely riffed on the idea, and I can't speak to that. You know, I can only speak to what we're doing inside. But if that's what's happening, then that's what you see.
But also with the aesthetic, like all your album covers are these really great. You know, psychedelia has become such a broad thing now. Like you've got the digital Alex Gray art angle, Alex Gray, and then the digital art and the fractal art and like the hard psytrance angle. But you've also got the 60s angle. Completely different aesthetics, completely different sounds, completely different expressions. But it all kind of comes down to this like psychedelic core framework work or anything.
I think a lot of that has to do with Christian being a design major and, you know, kind of keeping it consistent with, you know, with the artwork and really not being afraid to wear your influences on your sleeve,
Mm.
whether you're doing that, like musically, you want to break away from, you don't want to go down the exact same path at all
Yep.
with people that came before you, but not being afraid to be like, yeah, like this is like, we're influenced by X, Y, and Z bands, like there's no hiding it. And I think leaning into that and not being afraid to do that, at the same time trying to create something that sounds different, that feels like it can stand on its own 2 feet, that's the idea.
Yeah.
Like
Which,
being like, no, I like hip hop and country music and psychedelia, and like I'm not afraid to say that. And then like, I mean, that is the idea, is to just be able to stand on your own 2 feet and hold your own. And this world has so much amazing fucking music. It's like insane. I mean, like there's so much amazing music right now. Like it's crazy.
totally.
So we're just really, like, I feel so lucky to be a musician and play music and be able to have like a life at home, and to be able to do, just to be living, really. I mean, at this point, you and I made it through COVID, and that shit is real. And we, congratulations, we're still here.
Yeah.
So I feel lucky.
Totally. Yeah. Couldn't agree more, man.
Yeah.
What are some, you mentioned Aldous Harding before, but what are some kind of musical, I don't know, some musicians and bands and things that you just think deserve more attention?
Look, I think this band called the Warlocks from
Yeah, they're
Los
great.
Angeles are one of the best bands that ever fucking played. And I don't think
Wow.
that they've gotten the attention that they deserve. Like, I mean, talk about like straight up rock and roll, like caveman rock and roll. That's just like amazing. I just like, I can't, I look at that band, I'm like, oh man, like they're so good. And you see somebody like that and you just want them to just like flourish and thrive. And I don't know. I think that that's one of the best bands I've heard live. The Warlocks, man, they're so
Yeah.
good. They're
No,
so
they're great.
they're still touring. And I don't know. I'm into a lot of different bands, but that what I've been really getting into the last like 15-20 years, even before like bands like Khruangbin came along, is like just that Southeast Pacific Island sound. Like I kind of like, I've always been drawn to that. Just indigenous music from Vietnam and Cambodia and Thailand, that whole area. There's a lot of really cool music. I think just indigenous music in general, like, deserves more of a hand, more of a high five. I think if that's one thing that we could do with Levitation, is just really shine light on, in the future, shine light on these really small, tiny little projects that are just like really impactful, but don't probably have like a publicist and like a machine behind them pushing them, into the world. That would be one goal, to just go out and find these really cool street bands, and bring them to fly them in, and they're like, why are you flying me to America? Like, what's going on? That would be like the dream.
Oh, that sounds great, man. And I totally I just love some of the instruments that come out of Asia, like some of those Japanese string. I can't remember the names; they're escaping me. But
there are a lot of them. There are a lot of instruments. There's this instrument called the Teshigoto that I've got here.
Oh, sorry, just lost you.
No, can you hear me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, got you back. Yep.
Yeah. So there's this instrument called the Teshigoto, and it's this guy here.
Oh wow! Ah, fantastic. What? Wait, what? Is that buttons or strings?
Yeah, it's like this little musical typewriter. So it's like a little musical typewriter. So I just kind of like string. Let me get this shit off of here. I just kind of hit it like this. So you kind of strum the strings with your right hand, and you just type with your left hand.
Yeah.
Just kind of go like that. I don't know. I don't know if
It's
that's how you're supposed to play it or not, but
it's like
I
a
love this.
badass harmonium or something.
Dude,
Like
it's
a
really fucking cool. And I put like a contact pickup on it, contact mic, and kind of go for it. But
where's that instrument from?
this is a Japanese instrument. So
Japanese instrument. Wow.
I typed in on YouTube when we were making Phosphine Dream. I was like just like buying weird rare instruments like that I would find on the internet. So I typed in on YouTube, old man playing rare instrument.
Yeah.
Old man playing rare instrument, and this thing was the first thing that popped up, was an old man playing one of these things, old Japanese guy playing this. And yeah, I just love the way it sings back, and it's just like you can get really percussive and like super dark with it. Like I just love this fucking thing. So this is one of the reasons why I wanted to release that record, because I played Toshi Goto on there, and I'd love to play this thing like live all the time on every single song, but the band won't let me play it on every single song. Maybe one day.
That's incredible. Yeah.
I love that fucking thing.
Yeah, cool. It looks cool. Yeah, it's like the original guitar, isn't it? Before
yeah, dude, it is. It's exactly, yeah, it's an acoustic guitar.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah.
I love it. Thanks for sharing, man.
Yeah,
that's rad.
I'm glad it was just like sitting right here. I'm glad that was like not somewhere else.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite song that you or the and the Black Angels have ever done?
Well, gosh, that's like picking your favorite child, right?
Totally.
I was at dinner tonight with my parents, and Manipulation came on my sister's playlist, and I was like, oh, that song, that's up there with one of my favorites, because first and foremost, Christian sings on it. He takes a lead vocal, and I just come in with the choruses. And so I think that might be one of my favorites to play. It's just got this like drudgy, jangly, like everything about it kind of sums up what the band is. Like the pace and tempo and the sound and the mood and the color and everything just kind of feels like the Black Angels. So if I were to hand like an alien or one song and be like, this sums up our band, it would maybe be Manipulation.
Yeah.
It's just got this dark, it's not super fuzzy, you know, but it's still like, it's got this thing that, and it kind of reminds me of this when we first wrote Manipulation and these other songs on Passover. It's like, oh shit, like there's something here that feels really good and unique, and that's why we kept at it. We're like, hey, let's chase that feeling.
Yeah, great.
And that's fantastic. One of the songs for me that really does it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Christian would say Black Grease. That would be his song. That would be his favorite song, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know about the others, but I know for sure that would be his, because we're always writing a set list every night, and that's all, you know, we're always
pops up
trying to figure out like, what are we going to play? And that's always, he's like, well, gotta play Black Grease, and we'll put that in there. So it's kind of, it's funny. It's funny how people, and you know, go about like writing a set list, because like you have like 5 records or 6 records or whatever, and then you're like, okay, well, what are you going to play? You only have an hour. Like, what songs are you going to play? Like, I don't even think it should be up to us. It should be up to somebody else. Like we shouldn't even like have to decide. It's too difficult.
Yeah,
it's too hard. I can't do it anymore.
Totally. And also your vocals, man, they're so unique. Like they're almost like iconic. Like they're such a specific. I just absolutely love them. But was there? I mean, is that kind of just your? Is that just how you sing, or was there something? Did you kind of work at that angle a bit?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like, I just think that's maybe how like I listen to my dad sing sometimes, and I don't know. I think it's just kind of how I sing. And
yeah.
There's
I haven't heard anyone like it.
That's the studio. I think that there's something kind of fleeting, and I feel like I'm flying sometimes when I'm playing music or singing, and there's something, a place that I go wherever that is, and that's kind of what the feeling that I feel like. If I could describe what I feel when I'm singing a song, I feel like I'm flying sometimes. So it's natural that I would gravitate back to that feeling and that whatever that is. So yeah, I don't know, man. That's a hard one. That's that's really sweet of you again to say that. I appreciate that. But yeah, it's just, I guess it's just something that comes out of me, and that's the place that I go. So well, it's hard for me to describe it.
Yeah, man. I mean, such a big fan of your music, and the Black Angels. And yeah, by the time this is out, Wilderness of Mirrors will be out, and I really can't wait to just absolutely rinse it,
or rally through it.
That's it, man.
Oh my
Totally.
goodness. That's a great
Mad Max it through life. That's it.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, Mad Max it. That's right.
For sure.
Wonderful. It was great talking to you.
Oh, you too, dude. Seriously, and I really appreciate you making the time, dude. And I really intend to make it to Levitation one day, man.
Yeah, I'll gladly have you over if you fly all the way over here.
Hell yeah.
Do what it takes to make sure you get to see what you need to see. And thanks for reaching out. Thanks for reaching out too. I appreciate that.
Not at all. Do you mind if I play a track at the end of the podcast?
You got it, man.
Fantastic. Yeah. Will do. Awesome. Thank you, Alex, and thanks everyone for listening. Cheers. Cool.
Okay,
take care.
Bye. Adios.
Bye.
Bye.